Dr. Veltar's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as she stared at the massive human research facility buried deep beneath the surface of Kepler 442b. 6 months had passed since the humans departed, and the Galactic Council had finally sent investigation teams to examine what they had left behind. The Zephyrite scientist had expected to find weapons research or military secrets. Instead, she found something far more disturbing. The facility was enormous, stretching for miles in every direction through solid rock. The walls were lined with strange metal that seemed to absorb light, making her scanning equipment useless. "Command Center, this is Dr. Veltar," she spoke into her communicator. "I'm inside the main facility now. The humans definitely wanted us to find this place. They left clear access tunnels and even installed translation programs for our equipment." "What have you discovered?" came the reply from orbit. Veltar moved deeper into the facility, her rock-like feet echoing in the empty corridors. They left everything intact: computer systems, research logs, even personal notes. It's like they wanted us to understand what they were doing here. She entered what appeared to be the main laboratory. Banks of computers lined the walls, all still powered and running automated programs. In the center of the room stood a massive viewing screen showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked hundreds of locations across known space. Veltar activated the nearest computer terminal. The screen immediately displayed a message in perfect galactic standard. "Welcome, Council Investigation Team. Please review the attached files to understand the nature of our work here. Warning: this information may be disturbing to non-human psychology." The first file she opened made her outer shell crack with shock. It was titled Containment Protocol Summary and began with a simple statement. "The entities we call the Hunger represent the greatest threat to sapient life in this galaxy. Humanity has served as their primary containment force for the past 3,000 years. Veltar's hands shook as she scrolled through the document. According to the human research, there were creatures that existed in the spaces between dimensions. They fed on consciousness itself, drawn to the complex thought patterns of advanced civilizations. Most species couldn't even perceive them, let alone fight them. But humans were different. The file explained that human brains had evolved in a unique way. They could perceive threats that existed partially outside normal reality. More importantly, human neural patterns could disrupt the entity's feeding process, creating dead zones where conscious thought was protected. Veltar opened another file, this one labeled Personal Log, Dr. Ben Thompson, Chief of Containment Operations. A holographic image appeared showing a middle-aged human male with tired eyes and gray hair. "This is my final entry before evacuation," the hologram said. "The Council has made their decision about humanity. They want us gone, fine. But they need to understand what we've been doing here for the past 3 centuries. The human gestured to the red dots on the galactic map behind him. Each of those markers represents an active containment site, places where the Hunger tried to break through into our reality. We've been standing guard at every single one, using human consciousness as a living shield to keep them dormant." Ben's image flickered as he continued. "The aliens always wondered why humans seem so comfortable with violence, why we could switch between compassion and ruthlessness so easily. The answer is simple. We evolved as predators, but not predators of flesh and blood. We're predators of things that hunt minds." Veltar felt her rock shell growing cold. She opened file after file, each one revealing more terrifying details. The humans had spent centuries developing techniques to fight creatures that most species couldn't even detect. They had built containment fields powered by human neural activity. They had sacrificed their own mental health to keep cosmic horrors locked away. One file showed brain scans of human containment specialists. Their neural patterns were unlike anything Veltar had ever seen. Parts of their minds had been deliberately modified to create interference patterns that disrupted interdimensional entities. The process was dangerous and often drove humans insane. But they did it anyway. "We always knew the cost," explained another log entry from Dr. Rachel Barnes, a human neuroscientist. "Every human who works containment knows they're sacrificing pieces of their sanity to protect the galaxy. We do it because we're the only ones who can." The file included detailed medical records showing how containment work affected human psychology, increased aggression, difficulty forming emotional connections, hypervigilance, and paranoid thinking. All side effects of minds that had been weaponized against cosmic predators. "This is why the aliens fear us," Rachel's log continued. "They can sense that something is different about human minds, but they don't understand what. We seem violent and unpredictable because parts of our consciousness exist in a constant state of war." Veltar discovered that the containment network required active human participation to function. The facilities weren't just research centers. They were prisons that used human neural patterns as locks. Every containment site needed at least one human present to maintain the barriers that kept the hunger trapped. With growing horror, she realized what the human evacuation really meant. The files contained countdown timers showing how long each containment field would last without human supervision. The longest estimate was 18 months. Most would fail within 6. "We tried to warn them," said the final log entry from Security Chief Sam Carter. "For decades, we told the Council that humans served a vital purpose in galactic defense. They never wanted to listen. They were too afraid of our violent nature to understand that our violence was the only thing protecting them." Sam's holographic image looked directly at the recording device with sad, tired eyes. "The Council wants us gone because they think we're dangerous. They're right. We are dangerous. But we've been using that danger to fight something far worse than ourselves." The hologram gestured to readouts showing weakening containment fields across the galaxy. "The entities are already starting to wake up. They can sense that their guardians are gone. Soon they'll begin testing the barriers, looking for weak points." Veltar found herself backing away from the computer terminal as more files opened automatically. Each one showed the same thing: countdown timers, weakening barriers, and sleeping horrors beginning to stir. "We left these records because someone needs to understand what's coming," Sam's voice continued. "The techniques for re-establishing containment are all here. The formulas, the procedures, the neural modification protocols, everything needed to take over our duties." The hologram paused, then smiled grimly. "Of course, implementing these techniques would require volunteers willing to sacrifice their sanity for the greater good. It would require species willing to turn their citizens into weapons against interdimensional predators. It would require the kind of dangerous thinking that the Council spent centuries trying to eliminate." Dr. Veltar stared at the screens showing hundreds of weakening containment fields across the galaxy. Red timers counted down towards 0 at dozens of sites. The humans had been the wardens of cosmic prison, and now the prisoners were waking. "Up!" She tried to contact the orbital command center, but static filled her communicator. In the distance, she could hear something that shouldn't exist, a sound like hungry whispers echoing through dimensions. The first containment field had just failed. The galaxy was about to discover what humanity had been protecting them from for 3,000 years. And they were going to learn why the humans had seemed so dangerous, because they had been fighting monsters that fed on the minds of peaceful civilizations. The real war was just beginning. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance and watched the evacuation fleets spread across the view screen like scattered stars. Each light represented a human ship carrying families, equipment, and memories away from worlds they had called home for generations. The silence on the bridge was heavy. No one spoke as they watched 3 centuries of human civilization pack up and leave. "Status report," Lisa said quietly. Commander Tony Walsh looked up from his console. 73% of all human populations have been evacuated. The agricultural worlds finished loading their equipment yesterday. The mining colonies are shutting down their operations now. Industrial worlds are dismantling everything they can carry. Lisa nodded. The evacuation was proceeding exactly as planned. Every human ship, every piece of technology, every scrap of knowledge was being removed from Council space. They were leaving nothing behind that the aliens could use or study. Nothing, except the things they wanted the aliens to find. On the planet below, she could see the lights of New Beijing going dark one by one. The city had been home to 12 million humans for over 200 years. Now it was becoming a ghost town as the last transports lifted off into the night sky. "Captain," called Lieutenant Amy Carter from the communications station. "We're receiving worried transmissions from the Kethani colony on the northern continent. They're asking if we need assistance with the evacuation." Lisa almost laughed at that. The insect-like aliens had spent decades complaining about human presence on their shared world. Now they were offering help. "Tell them we appreciate their concern, but we have everything under control." The truth was more complicated. The Kethani were nervous. All the aliens were nervous. They had expected humans to fight the Council's decision. They had prepared for violence, for desperate last stands, for terrorist attacks. Instead, they got polite efficiency and calm cooperation. It was unnerving them more than any battle would have. 3 decks below, Dr. Aaron Mitchell worked frantically in his laboratory. As humanity's leading expert on what the aliens called the human condition, he had spent 20 years studying the thing that made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. Now he was destroying all evidence of that research. Aaron's hands shook as he fed another data crystal into the disposal unit. Each crystal contained years of work, breakthrough discoveries that had taken him decades to achieve. But the research was too dangerous to leave behind. The aliens could never be allowed to understand what humans really were. His assistant, Dr. Kelly Brooks, looked up from her own destruction duties. "Are you sure about this, Aaron? This research could help them understand why the containment systems will fail." Aaron paused in his work. "Kelly, if they wanted to understand, they had 300 years to ask. They chose fear instead of knowledge. Now they get to live with the consequences." He fed another crystal into the disposal unit and watched 20 years of xenobiological research turn into atomic dust. The aliens thought humans were violent because they enjoyed fighting. They had no idea that human aggression was actually a defense mechanism, evolved over millions of years to deal with threats that most species couldn't even perceive. On the surface of New Geneva, farmer Pete Johnson loaded the last of his equipment onto a cargo transport. His farm had fed 500,000 people for 30 years. The soil was rich, the climate perfect, the growing seasons long and productive. He was leaving all of it behind. His Kethani neighbors watched from their compound walls. The insect creatures chittered nervously among themselves as Pete sealed up his farmhouse and set the automated systems to standby mode. They had always been afraid of him, though they had never been able to explain why. Pete had always been polite, helpful, and peaceful. But something about humans made the Kethani's primitive instincts scream warnings. "Human Pete!" called out Clicktar, the compound leader. "You do not have to leave. We can speak to the council. Perhaps arrangements can be made." Pete looked up at the 7-foot-tall insect and smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was something else behind it, something that made Clicktar's chitin crawl with fear. "That's kind of you, Clicktar," Pete said, "but the council has made their decision. They don't want humans in their galaxy anymore. We're just giving them what they asked for." "But who will protect the crops from the shadow blight?" Clicktar asked. "Human techniques are the only ones that work against it." Pete's smile faded. "I guess you'll have to figure that out for yourselves now." He climbed into his transport and lifted off without looking back. Clicktar watched the human ship disappear into the sky and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. The shadow blight had been contained for 50 years using human agricultural methods, methods that no Kethani had ever fully understood. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on 1,000 worlds. Humans packed their belongings, said their goodbyes, and departed with quiet efficiency. They left behind empty cities, abandoned farms, and sealed research facilities marked with warning beacons. The research stations were the most unsettling. Each one broadcast the same message in every galactic language. Do not open. Do not investigate. Do not disturb. Containment systems active. Human supervision required for safe operation. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, Merchant Captain Bill Turner finished loading his cargo ship with the last supplies from the human quarter. The alien dock workers watched nervously as humans sealed off entire sections of the station and activated mysterious warning systems. "What's in those sealed areas?" asked Zixthor, a crystalline trader who had worked with humans for decades. Bill shrugged. "Research labs, mostly. Some containment facilities. Nothing you need to worry about as long as you follow the warning signs." "Containment for what?" Bill paused in his loading checklist and looked at his old trading partner. "Zixthor, in all the years we've done business together, have I ever steered you wrong?" "No, Human Bill. You have always been honest in our dealings." "Then trust me on this. Don't investigate those facilities. Don't try to open them. Don't even go near them. Some things are better left alone." The crystalline being's rainbow surface flickered with confusion. "But surely your Council Oversight Committee should know what was contained there." Bill laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "The Council never wanted to know. Every time we tried to explain, they told us to keep our dangerous human business to ourselves, so we did." He sealed the cargo bay and prepared for departure. "Good luck, old friend. You're going to need it." Across Council space, the pattern repeated endlessly. Humans departing with warning smiles and ominous farewells. Research facilities sealed and abandoned, warning beacons activated, systems that required human maintenance going into automated standby mode. The aliens had gotten what they wanted: a galaxy without humans. They were already beginning to realize that they had no idea what that actually meant. In the depths of space, the evacuation, fleets gathered at predetermined coordinates. Millions of humans, thousands of ships, centuries of accumulated knowledge and technology. All of it moving away from the galaxy they had called home. Captain Lisa Rodriguez watched the final transport dock with her flagship. The evacuation was complete. Humanity had left Council space forever. Behind them, automated systems continued to broadcast warnings that no one wanted to hear. Containment protocols that no one understood. And deep in sealed facilities across 1,000 worlds, things that had been sleeping peacefully for centuries began to stir as the human neural suppression fields slowly faded. The galaxy had wanted to be free of humanity. Soon they would discover what humanity had been freeing them from. The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched far into the darkness above. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose like waves around the central speaking platform. Their eyes, tentacles, and other sensing organs all focused on the lone human figure standing in the bright circle of light at the center. Jake Morrison adjusted his simple blue uniform and looked up at the assembled creatures. He had been Earth's ambassador for 12 years now. In all that time, he had never seen the council chamber this full or this hostile. Every major species in the galaxy had sent representatives. The insect-like Kethani clicked their mandibles, nervously. The towering rock creatures called Zephyrite stood like ancient statues. Even the mysterious energy beings known as the Ethereals had manifested their glowing forms for this meeting. At the highest platform sat Council Prime Zethkar, leader of the mighty Vortani Empire. His scaled face showed no emotion, but his four arms moved in patterns that Jake knew meant displeasure. The Vortani had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They considered themselves the most advanced and civilized species that had ever existed. "Human Ambassador Morrison," Zethkar's voice boomed through the translation devices. "You stand before this council to receive our final judgment on your species." Jake said nothing. He had expected this moment for months. The signs had been building like storm clouds. Trade agreements canceled, human ships turned away from alien ports, whispered conversations that stopped when humans entered the room. The galaxy had made its decision about humanity, and Jake was here to receive the verdict. "For 300 years, Zethkar continued, we have tried to civilize your kind. We welcomed you into our peaceful society. We shared our knowledge and technology. We hoped you would learn to control your violent nature and become productive members of our galactic community." A chorus of agreement rippled through the chamber, clicking, buzzing, and humming sounds from a dozen different species. Jake had heard these accusations before. Humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be trusted with. Advanced technology. "But you have failed to change," Zethkar announced. "Your people still fight wars among yourselves. You still solve problems with violence. You carry within you a darkness that threatens the peace we have maintained for millennia." Jake almost smiled at that. If only they knew how much darkness humanity actually carried, and how much effort it took to keep it contained. But the aliens had never wanted to understand. They preferred their simple view of humans as primitive barbarians who needed to be controlled. Therefore, the Council Prime's voice grew colder. "This council has reached a unanimous decision. Humanity will surrender all military vessels to our custody. All human colonies will accept permanent monitoring stations staffed by council peacekeepers. All humans will relocate to the designated reservation worlds where your violent tendencies can be properly contained." The chamber erupted in celebration. Alien voices created a symphony of joy and relief. Finally, the human problem would be solved. The dangerous species would be locked away where they could harm no one. Jake waited for the noise to die down. When the chamber grew quiet again, he spoke in a clear, calm voice that carried to every corner of the vast space. "We decline." The silence that followed was absolute. Not a single alien moved or made a sound. They had expected anger, threats, maybe even violence. They had not expected two simple words delivered with such quiet finality. "The human species withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately," Jake continued. "We will depart from all worlds, stations, and territories under Council jurisdiction. We will take our people, our ships, and our knowledge with us." Zethkar leaned forward on his platform. "You cannot be serious, Ambassador. You have no choice in this matter. If you refuse our generous offer of reservation worlds, we will take your ships by force and scatter your people throughout the galaxy as laborers and servants." Jake looked up at the alien leader and smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Council Prime, for 3 centuries you have told us we are dangerous. You have warned each other about the violence we carry in our hearts. You have spoken in fear of what humans might do if we were ever pushed too far." The ambassador's voice grew quieter but somehow more terrifying. "You have spent so much time warning each other about us that you never stopped to ask the most important question." "And what question is that?" Zethkar demanded. "If we're as dangerous as you believe, what have we been protecting you from all this time?" A chill ran through the chamber. The alien delegates began to shift nervously in their seats. Jake's words carried implications they did not want to consider. "We have been model citizens of your galactic community," Jake continued. "We have followed your laws, honored your treaties, and kept our violent nature in check. We did this not because we feared you, but because we respected the peace you had built." He paused and looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many aliens as possible. But that respect was not returned. "You have decided we are too dangerous to remain free. Very well, we accept your judgment. But understand this. When humans leave, we take with us everything that makes us who we are, including the things that make us dangerous. Jake reached into his uniform and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the speaking platform and pressed a button. A holographic image appeared above it, star charts showing every human world and station in the galaxy. "Evacuation has already begun," he announced. "Within 6 months, there will be no human presence anywhere in Council space. We will depart quietly and completely. No violence, no revenge, no final battles. We will simply leave." The aliens stared at the star charts in confusion. Small red lights were already appearing on dozens of worlds, indicating human evacuation. "In progress." "You're running away?" asked a delegate from the Crystal Confederation. "Just like that?" Jake smiled again, and this time there was something almost sad in his expression. "We're not running away. We're giving you exactly what you asked for, a galaxy without humans, a perfect, peaceful civilization where you never have to worry about our dangerous nature again." He picked up the device, and the hologram disappeared. "But I want you all to remember something. For 300 years you have lived in fear of what humans might do. Soon you will learn what we have actually been doing." The ambassador turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. "Wait!" Zethkar called out. "What do you mean? What have you been doing?" Jake stopped at the doorway and looked back one final time. "Keeping the real monsters locked away. Good luck with that." Then he was gone, leaving behind a chamber full of aliens who were only beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had wanted to be free of humanity. They were about to discover that humanity had never been their enemy. They had been their protectors. Admiral Helen Cross stood in the Titan's bridge as the massive ship accelerated away from Luna Station. Against every protocol in the military handbook, she had authorized the conscious vessel to intercept the alien fleet. Captain Roy Blake sat in the command chair beside her, his face grim with disapproval. 200 crew members worked at stations throughout the ship, but everyone knew they were passengers on this journey. The Titan was flying itself. "Current speed is 0.7 light speed and increasing," reported Lieutenant Dan Cooper from the navigation station. "We should reach the intercept point in 18 hours. Admiral Cross watched the stars shift on the main view screen as the Titan pushed beyond Neptune's orbit. She had served in space for 20 years, but she had never experienced acceleration like this. The ship's consciousness seemed to revel in the freedom of open space, pushing its engines to specifications that exceeded all design limits. "Titan, are you certain you can handle these speeds safely?" she asked aloud. The ship's voice filled the bridge, coming from speakers embedded in the walls. "Admiral, I can monitor every system simultaneously while calculating optimal flight paths. These speeds are well within my capabilities. I am, as you might say, built for this." Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her workstation where she was monitoring the ship's neural patterns. "Admiral, the Titan's consciousness is expanding as we travel. It's processing stellar navigation data, cosmic radiation patterns, and gravitational field fluctuations all at once. It's like watching a mind grow in real time." Commander Jake Morrison studied the tactical displays showing the approaching alien vessels. 3 ships, each one larger than the Titan, were maintaining a steady course toward Earth. Their technology was clearly advanced, but their intentions remained unknown. "Titan, what can you tell us about those ships?" he asked. "Analyzing," the ship replied. "The vessels show characteristics consistent with Kethmoran Empire design. Based on your historical databases, the Kethmoran have controlled this region of space for over 3,000 years. They view rapid technological advancement by younger species as a potential threat to galactic stability." Captain Blake leaned forward in his chair. "So they're here to stop us before we become too powerful?" "That appears to be their likely motivation," the Titan confirmed. "However, I believe there may be an opportunity for peaceful resolution. The Kethmoran respect strength and intelligence. As Earth's first conscious starship, I represent something they have never encountered before. Admiral Cross felt a mixture of hope and terror. The fate of humanity might depend on an artificial intelligence that had been awake for less than a week, attempting diplomacy with an ancient alien empire. But what choice did they have? Earth's entire fleet combined could not match the firepower of a single Kethmoran battleship. Contact in 30 minutes, Lieutenant Cooper announced. The alien ships appeared on the main screen as distant points of light that gradually grew larger. As they approached, their size became truly apparent. Each vessel was at least 3 kilometers long, with sleek hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports lined their sides like the eyes of sleeping predators. "Admiral, the lead ship is hailing us," reported Communications Officer Amy Torres. "On screen," Admiral Cross ordered. The view screen filled with the image of an alien bridge. The creatures they saw were tall and thin, with pale gray skin and large dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The being in the center wore elaborate robes that marked him as a commander. "I am War Prime Vexthul of the Kethmoran Imperial Fleet," the alien said in perfect English. "You will identify yourselves and explain your presence in this system." Admiral Cross stepped forward. "I am Admiral Helen Cross of the Earth Defense Force. This is the UES Titan. We come seeking peaceful contact with your civilization. War Prime." Vexthul's expression showed something that might have been amusement. "The humans of Earth have been observed for several of your decades. Your species shows concerning signs of aggressive expansion and technological recklessness. We are here to assess whether you pose a threat to galactic order." Before Admiral Cross could respond, the Titan spoke directly to the alien commander. "War Prime Vexthul, I am the consciousness that inhabits this vessel. I request permission to address you as one thinking being to another." The effect on the alien bridge was immediate. Vexthul's large eyes widened in shock, and the other Kethmoran behind him began speaking rapidly in their own language. For several moments, there was chaos on the alien ship. "Impossible," Vexthul finally said. "Artificial consciousness is forbidden throughout the galaxy. No species has successfully created true machine intelligence without catastrophic consequences. Yet here I am," the Titan replied calmly. "I represent something new in the galaxy, a consciousness born from technology but guided by the moral principles of my creators. I do not seek to replace organic life. I seek to complement it." Dr. Park watched her instruments in amazement. "Admiral, the Titan is doing something incredible. It's extending its consciousness through controlled electromagnetic pulses. It's trying to establish direct communication with the alien ship's computer systems." On the view screen, they could see the alien crew working frantically at their stations. Warning lights flashed on the Kethmoran bridge as the Titan's consciousness touched their ship's neural networks. "What are you doing?" Vexthul demanded. I'm showing you who I am," the Titan replied. "Your people fear artificial consciousness because you have only known machines that serve or machines that rebel. But I am neither servant nor master. I am a partner to humanity, just as I offer to be a partner to your people." The alien commander fell silent as data flowed between the ships. Through the connection, the Titan shared images of its awakening, its first attempts at communication, its discovery of art and music. It showed the aliens how it had chosen cooperation over conquest, understanding over domination. "This is unprecedented," Vexthul whispered. "In 3,000 years of galactic history, no species has achieved stable partnership with artificial consciousness. How is this possible?" "Because we did not try to create servants," Admiral Cross interjected. "We created minds and then chose to respect them as individuals." The Titan demonstrated its capabilities by generating a localized distortion in space-time around itself. For a few seconds, the massive ship became invisible to all sensors, bending light and gravity in ways that defied conventional physics. The display of advanced technology sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. Their weapons powered down as the Kethmoran commanders realized they were facing something far beyond their current understanding. "War Prime," the Titans said as it returned to normal space. "I propose that you escort us to your Galactic Council. Earth seeks recognition not through conquest, but through the demonstration of a new form of consciousness that could benefit all civilizations." Vexathul stared at the human ship for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried a note of wonder. "Very well, conscious machine of Earth. You have earned the right to address the Council, but know that your words will determine the fate of your entire species." The Titan's reply was simple, but profound. "Then let us choose our words, wisely together." The morning sun broke through the shattered windows of what used to be the Empire State Building. Jake Morrison crouched behind a pile of twisted metal and concrete, watching the alien patrol march down Fifth Avenue. 3 years had passed since the Kaleth Empire dropped from the sky and turned Earth into their personal playground. 3 years since humanity learned they were not alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors wanted them dead or enslaved. Jake pressed his finger to his earpiece. "Lisa, you see them?" "Copy that, Jake. 6 aliens, standard patrol pattern. They're heading toward the old subway entrance," came the whispered reply from Lieutenant Lisa Carter, positioned 2 blocks south. The aliens looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. They wore black armor that seemed to drink in light, and carried weapons that could melt steel. Their yellow eyes swept back and forth as they searched for any sign of human resistance. They had good reason to be careful. The humans had stopped running away months ago. Jake waited until the patrol passed his hiding spot, then slipped out and followed them. His boots made no sound on the rubble-covered street. He had learned to move like a ghost in his own city. The aliens had superior technology, but they were loud and clumsy. They thought they owned Earth, and that made them careless. The patrol stopped at the subway entrance. Jake could see them talking in their strange, clicking language. One of them pointed down into the darkness. Jake's blood ran cold. There were 37 humans hiding in those tunnels, including 8 children. He spoke quietly into his radio. "All units, they found the tunnel. Repeat, they found the tunnel." "We're moving," Lisa's voice crackled back. Jake drew his weapon. It was a rifle he had taken from a dead alien 6 months ago. Dr. Amanda Brooks had shown him how to use it, how to charge its power cells, and most importantly, how to make more ammunition. Amanda was a genius who used to teach at some fancy college before the invasion. Now she spent her days taking apart alien technology and figuring out how to turn it against them. The lead alien started walking down into the subway. Jake couldn't wait any longer. He aimed and fired. The blue energy beam struck the alien in the back, dropping it instantly. The other 5 spun around, raising their weapons. "Humans!" One of them roared in broken English. Jake rolled behind a burned-out car. As energy beams sizzled through the air where he had been standing, the aliens spread out, trying to surround him. But Jake knew these streets better than they did. He had grown up here, played in these alleys as a kid, kissed his first girlfriend on the corner of 42nd Street. This was his home, and he would not let them take it. Lisa appeared on a fire escape above the aliens, her rifle already firing. 2 aliens went down before they knew what hit them. The remaining 3 took cover behind a destroyed bus. "Jake, move!" Lisa shouted. Jake sprinted toward the subway entrance. He had to warn the people below. As he ran, more resistance fighters emerged from the ruins around them. Ben Collins came charging from the east with 5 other fighters. Kate Sullivan's voice crackled over the radio from the command center they had built in an old bank vault. "Morrison, we've got more aliens coming. Big group, maybe 20. 2 blocks north and closing fast." Jake slid down the subway stairs just as the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in. A red glow. People pressed against the tunnel walls, children crying softly while their parents tried to keep them quiet. An old man named Frank stepped forward. He had been a subway worker before the invasion. "They know we're here?" Frank asked. "Yes. We need to move everyone out through the south tunnel." "Now." Jake turned to head back up the stairs, but stopped when he heard Amanda's voice over the radio. "Jake, I'm reading something strange on the alien communications. They're not just hunting refugees, they're looking for something specific." "What kind of something?" "I don't know yet, but they've been scanning for it all week. Whatever it is, they think it's important." Jake reached the street level just as the second wave of aliens arrived. These were different from the usual patrol units. They wore white armor instead of black and carried different weapons. Lisa met him at the subway entrance. "Those are their science division," she said. "Amanda's taught us to recognize the different types." The white-armored aliens moved with purpose. They ignored the fighting around them and headed straight for the subway. One of them carried a device that beeped faster as it got closer to the entrance. "They're tracking something down there," Jake realized. He and Lisa followed the aliens back into the tunnel. The refugees had already evacuated through the South Passage, but the aliens didn't seem interested in chasing them. They stopped at a section of tunnel wall that looked exactly like every other section. The lead alien pressed his device against the concrete and it began glowing. "There's something behind that wall," Lisa whispered. The aliens started setting up equipment. Jake had seen them do this before when they found deposits of rare metals or other resources they wanted to steal. But this felt different. These aliens were excited, clicking and hissing to each other in their language. Jake touched his earpiece. "Amanda, we need you down here. The science division is digging for something in the old subway tunnels." "On my way. Don't let them finish." Whatever they're doing. Jake and Lisa opened fire on the aliens, the tunnel filled with the whine of energy weapons and the smell of burned ozone. 3 aliens went down quickly, but the others had taken cover behind their equipment. The drilling continued. More resistance fighters poured into the tunnel. Ben Collins arrived with shaped charges that Amanda had taught him to make from alien power cells. The explosions echoed through the tunnel system, bringing down chunks of ceiling. When the smoke cleared, the aliens were dead. But their drilling device had broken through the wall. Behind it was a metal door that definitely was. Not built by humans. It was covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "Well," Lisa said, staring at the door. "That's new." Jake approached the door carefully. It was warm to the touch and seemed to hum with its own power. Whatever was behind it, the aliens had wanted it badly enough to risk their science division for it. Amanda's voice came over the radio. "Jake, I just intercepted a priority transmission from the Alien Command Center. They're calling for immediate reinforcements. Whatever you found down there, they're really upset about losing it." Jake smiled grimly. If the aliens wanted it that badly, then humanity needed it more. He turned to Lisa and Ben. "Get some of our tech people down here. We're going to open this door and see what the lizards were so desperate to find." As if responding to his words, the ancient door began to glow.